Welcome to Product Fridays, everybody. I'm Andrew McGill.
I'm Andrew Phelps, and I can't believe this is the last show of 2025.
Yeah, it's one of
For
those
so
things
many
where,
reasons.
like with children, right? The days go slowly, but the years go quickly.
The,
Well,
the days are long, the years are short.
exactly.
Yep,
The bi-weekly interval of making a podcast is long, but I think the eight months, 9 months we've been doing this have actually gone by pretty quickly.
they have. It was weekly, then bi-weekly, and we've experimented a bit. We actually took an extra week for Thanksgiving. Now we're back, and now somehow it's already Christmas. And we are reflective, and we are, what's the opposite? What's like forward looking?
Prospective.
Perspective. We're reflective and perspective. And I think we want to do a two-parter, like some reflections on the year that was. And I'm actually curious to hear if you want this to be more personal in nature, sort of Andrews focused, because that's kind of where my head is.
Yeah.
And then some forward-looking projections, which I think could be a mix of Andrews and sort of macro stuff.
Yeah, I'm totally on board. You can go to other podcasts to hear that Trump won the election, that the economy didn't crash, or did it? And that ChatGPT is really popular, though I do kind of want to talk about that a little bit. Yeah. I am more interested in hearing about the year through our eyes and through, by extension, our listeners' eyes.
Yes, the listeners have eyes. Okay. Well, I mean, can I like kick it off a little bit here?
Yeah, let's do it.
This podcast was born in a dark moment for ya boy. I think we started this in March, where I had a lot of free time because I had no work. Because I think it was a combination of macroeconomic and political stuff and bad luck and taking my eye off the ball of business development a little bit at the end of last year. Because people don't realize when you're a solo consultancy, solo business, you're a biz dev guy, you're execution guy, you're marketing guy, and I don't have somebody else doing that. So the year started unlike every year previously, which was I couldn't seem to find a project, which was kind of a odd feeling. I've been very lucky to never have that problem, and fortunately, the tide turned, and the year ended up being a very good year, I think, for both of us.
Yeah.
You and I got to work on, was it one big project this year?
Yeah, and I don't know if we can say the
We
name.
can say it. We
Let's just say
can't
it.
talk about the work, but it was MSNBC, now known as MS Now.
We were there, by the way, when they chiseled off the NBC and they chiseled in the NOW.
Yes, and we were not involved in the name. So if you love it or don't love it, don't blame us. But we've done a lot of amazing projects together, and this was probably one of the most fun. So that was a highlight.
I kind of want to go back to the low light for a second, Andrew, because can I just interview you for a second?
Yes,
Because
go ahead.
I feel like I've been with you on this journey. There's this weird thing in being an entrepreneur, and certainly I think also being a consultant, and definitely if you're an agency, is you never talk about your failures.
Yeah, never.
And if you do, it means no one's going to hire you again because you are damaged goods. And if you ever had to, lay someone off or close an office or scale back in any way, you just don't talk about it. And you just kind of silently reorganize your website and you just keep going. And you always are game face on. And that is the predominant thing going on LinkedIn. There's obvious counters to that. There's people who are like overly talking sometimes about the tragedy that befell them.
Yes.
But I know that you struggled with this a little bit because it was kind of you talking to me and your wife and your mom about how you were in a really dark place. And to everybody else, you were like, world of opportunity, just can't wait for what comes next. And that had to be hard too.
Yeah, I think there's something to projecting confidence and optimism. I think it's something that I learned just from a different life where I was leading teams where somebody's got to be projecting optimism or no one else will. And yeah, I think when you're running a business, it matters. Now that that's behind me, I'm talking about a tough period on a podcast that fortunately no one listens to, Product Fridays.
So true.
But yeah, I started this solo consulting thing, almost 4 years ago now.
Mhm.
And I was just lucky from the get-go that I kept getting emails and calls and projects, and every project was a little bit different. And each project was a way of figuring out what my business is meant to be. And it was never totally clear. And this period of not having any project, besides being like financially sort of existentially stressful, definitely brought up some old, like, oh, what am I even meant to be doing? Am I any good at this? All the imposter syndrome comes rushing back, no matter the last 3 years of success that I had. And I went to Florida in February to visit my mom and stepdad.
Almost died in a plane
Almost
crash.
died in a plane crash, which I wrote about on LinkedIn. Didn't die in a plane crash. Everyone's like, oh, did you get perspective from that experience? I didn't really, honestly, but it must have put me in some kind of a contemplative mood, because I would go on, this is truly the nerdiest thing I will ever say on this podcast. I went on long walks with ChatGPT, by which I meant that back in February of 2025, the idea of being able to have a voice conversation with ChatGPT was still fairly novel, and it wasn't super great yet. So actually, they were pretty annoying conversations. But I was like, I just need to be hands-free, AirPods, long walk in the sun, talk out loud about what I want to do with my life. And I came out of that trip with what, in hindsight, sounds like a very kind of obvious and unoriginal takeaway, which is like, oh, it's AI. My North Star is AI. And I need to figure out like how to align myself with this technology so that I get work that will advance my expertise in this area. And like, I will kind of be on the front edge of my business instead of finding myself on the back foot. And I wound up taking on some really cool AI related projects. I founded a podcast with my best friend where we basically mostly talk about AI. And I built like an AI powered app. I mean, a few little apps, but a big one, Bandwagon, which I'm sure we'll talk about again at some point. And it wasn't, it was only what, 8, 9 months ago? What? No, 10 months ago that I made that decision. And it's wild to think that it would have been novel in February that like I should be doing AI stuff. And yet ChatGPT turned 3 like a week ago, even though it feels like it's been around for 10 years or something. So, the internet's moving fast, the world's moving fast. We know that. But I'm very fortunate that I ended the year having worked on an amazing project with you and some other really great projects. And I will say, I think I had to go through that to get a lot of clarity about where I'm meant to be spending my time, which is where you come in.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, are we ready to go there?
Are we going
or
there?
Are we teasing it for next
I think
time?
we're teasing it.
Okay.
Let's leave people wanting more.
Okay.
Suffice to say that we've been doing a lot of thinking
Yeah.
about the kind of work we like to do in the world. And we're going to have some announcements, God willing, in January. So
Yes.
there's a reason to listen in January. I will just say, Phelps, I think that it's when you are tried, when things are hard, is when you have growth. I think you've said this to me. When you're at the gym and you're just like lifting 1 pound weights, woo! Okay, you're not actually gaining muscle. But when you are doing stuff that really challenges you, or when you're kind of going through a really hard workout or a hard period, that's when you are kind of forced to get your SHIT together. I don't know if we can curse. And that 100% happened for you. Like, I think you were on this really cool roller coaster ride the last 2 or 3 years, where you were kind of doing all sorts of stuff. Some of it was with me. Some of it was like doing like leadership consulting for like NPR,
like coaching the C-suite on how to build their organizational structure and stuff.
You were doing that, and there's a world in which you just kept on doing that. And you were also hacking with me on some stuff at the Washington Post, which sort of kind of launched. We'll get to that in a second.
Yes.
But the roller coaster was just kind of taking you. And I think the ride stopped and you got off and you're like, well, what the heck? What do I want to do?
Yeah.
And then you had that Florida meeting or that Florida trip, and you came back and you really were a bit different. So I'm happy for you. And I think if I had to ask one last question on this period, because again, we don't talk about the hard stuff a lot. Like for someone else that's gone through a hard drought, either they've been laid off or they're a consultant and are having trouble finding work, or things just aren't pulling together. Like Do you have any advice from that period that you would give them?
Well, I would give them the advice that I executed myself, which was just talk to as many people as you can, get out there. You know, when you're telling people your story, you start to hear familiar patterns and you start to realize what you're saying that is true and what you're saying that actually doesn't feel true, and it can provide some clarity. And just talking to people, like infinitely opens up more possibilities that you'll have someone else to talk to. Yeah, I just, it was an excuse to reconnect with a ton of folks. One of those folks was a guy named Deep Bagchi that I was like, hey, it's been a while. Let's chat. He had just taken on this big new role. He didn't really have a project for me, but he was like, great to catch up. And then a few months later, lo and behold, my phone rings and he's like, hey, I got something for you. And that ended up being this amazing project with MS Now at what is now called Versant. And I'm so grateful for that. And I guess that's kind of just biz dev 101. You have to keep those relationships going.
No, but I think it's counterintuitive to a person who's in a dark time because
Yeah.
when you're depressed, you pull inward and you
Yes.
limit your contact. And this is not groundbreaking advice, but the best way to both break out of your inner funk and your business funk is to reach outward. And when I launched my business, I think you gave me advice, other people gave me advice, like, you got to call 3 people a week and get advice from them. And I was like, that's impossible to imagine. No one will want to talk to me. And I was overwhelmed by the amount of support and love that I got during a perfectly fine period of time. And I think, again, when you're in a dark period, you've got to pick up the phone and like ask for people's advice and sometimes ask for their help.
Yeah. And I think sometimes the universe says you need to be alone with your thoughts for a little bit and figure some stuff out. And there is nothing that forces clarity like the existential fear of running out of money. And when I worked in full-time jobs, every job that I left without my next one figured out. And it always lit the fire to find the next job. And it was always fine. Of course, I didn't have as much responsibility back in those days as I do now. So I guess a version of that happened again this time, which is like, I came face to face with fear and it forced me to figure some stuff out. And then a little bit of luck and a little bit of outreach led to some clarity, which was really great. I want to ask about your year. I think you had a much more steady year in terms of business. A lot of great clients on your side. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Reflect for me. I mean, try to cast your mind back to the beginning of 25.
Oh, it's not hard. Well, just zooming out real quick, and we don't really talk about politics on the show, and we won't talk a lot here, but in my family, we had a pretty important thing happen, which was the administration changed. And my wife worked in the Biden administration. And we were very lucky in that she was able to land work quickly. But like you said, there is an extreme focusing of, okay, what truly matters? How much can I get by on if maybe she's not working or maybe something else takes a while? And that informed the beginning of my year. And again, fortunately, she's working for Carnegie Mellon University. Love them. Go Tartans.
Tartans.
It definitely supercharged my desire to get a lot of work in the door quickly. And I think I took on a ton of work the first 3 months of the year. I think I was actually calculating my clients earlier today. I think I had 4 at once at one point, which is a lot for me. I know some people are like juggling 18 clients. For me,
it's too much.
Hands-on work and consulting work and strategy work and sometimes design work. 4 is context switching. It's like you feel like you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and thank God everyone worked with me and I worked with them and delivered good stuff, and it worked out fine. But I realized that kind of hustle is not going to make Andrew McGill happy. I need to do a different kind of hustle. And it's funny because just as I was coming out of that hole a little bit and finally getting my breath back and being like, okay, now I only have 2 clients. That's when, Deep called you back and said, we want to do something really ambitious and come on board. And you said, oh, well, McGill's a perfect partner for this. And it was almost the opposite because you and I are working on that MS Now project pretty much exclusively. I was working with another client, which I love and will cherish forever, Retro Report, which is a ed tech and documentary film company.
Great client.
Great client. And I will talk about one thing I did for them in a minute. But like we were able to focus on that one project with MS Now. And that felt like the ultimate luxury. It was like
Yes.
a warm bath.
I felt like a rich guy or something.
I
It just
know.
felt
And
so good.
hey, listen, it was a lot of work.
Yes.
And like, and listen, half of it was done while I was on vacation in Michigan, or working remotely. And like, it was, we were thinking it was 3, 4, 5 days a week, full days, but it felt, compared to this work I've been doing earlier in the year, which was split up, so much more engrossing and
Mhm.
positive. So my takeaway was, all right, I'm a 1 to 2 client guy. I'm not a 5 to 6 client guy. And it took this year for me to figure that out.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that your whole family worked out. And by the way, it's Scottish Terriers. You had your Scottish things confused. Tartan is a different Scottish
So
thing.
tartan is a thing. They have like a tartan, like
It's like a pattern.
it's a pattern. Yeah, like I
Yeah.
think their wiki is called Tartan Web or something. I'm not pulling tartan out of nowhere.
Okay.
Tartan's a thing.
Okay. Yeah. Go Terriers. Well, good job on, I mean, it wasn't an easy year. It wasn't an uneventful year, but like you said, we had to go through that to grow. All right. Forget about 2025.
We're moving on.
Should we go to a commercial break now?
Yep.
And then when we come back, we'll do predictions for 2026.
I love it. Let's hear
Okay.
a little bit from our sponsor.
Welcome back. All right.
So Andrew, can I steal something from like Nate Silver?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
is smart. Or maybe it's Matt Iglesias. I'm not sure. They do predictions, but anyone can predict anything. The trick here is that you have different levels of confidence for different predictions, right? There's some things you feel very confident will happen in the next year. There's some things that could happen, but you're honestly not sure. So I would propose that we each make 3 predictions. One we are 90% sure about. One we are 50% sure could happen, could not. And one we think is possible, but we are only 10% confident. What do you think about that?
I love it. I would like you to go first.
Okay. I swapped out my 90% one this morning based on some news, which is that I believe that in 2026, at least one of the following companies, and they're going to be Warner Bros. Discovery, Comcast, NBC Universal, Paramount, Sony, Mattel, or Lego, will do a IP sharing deal with a major LLM like Anthropic, like ChatGPT or OpenAI, xAI, or Google Gemini. And the reason I think this is going to happen is because Disney just did it with OpenAI.
Yeah.
You can now go, I don't know if you can do it yet, but soon you'll be able to go into Sora and have Darth Vader, shaking up a cocktail for Pinocchio or something, which is my personal
Cannot
kink.
wait for that query.
And it's funny. I kind of thought it would never happen, and now that it has happened, I think it'll happen
Seems
everywhere.
inevitable. Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that?
Well, you kind of took mine.
no.
First of all, that was a $1 billion deal, billion with a B. And I don't know how many of those there are, and I don't know how many Disneys there are. Can I tell you what my prediction was? Now,
Please.
this was a 50%. Can I jump to 50%? Which was that OpenAI will settle its lawsuit with the New York Times, admitting no fault, and announce a major licensing deal, and possibly some cool like future of news integration of some kind. And they'll both save face somehow. But I think was spurred on by this Disney news. Like I said, I don't think there are a lot of Disneys or a lot of New York Timeses, but I do agree we'll see some of these deals. Now, I only said 50% because that is an acrimonious lawsuit, and OpenAI has claimed again and again that it's not copyright infringement to steal other people's stuff. But I wonder if that tune is changing.
So, okay, we're just jumping around now. Can I
Yeah.
give you my 10%?
Yeah.
I believe with 10% confidence that a major AI company, let's just say OpenAI, Claude, or Google, will outright buy a news organization.
Dude, come on.
Wait, did you
We're the
did you
same
think of that
person.
too?
That was one of my alts. I have a list here, and that was the alt.
I think. Listen,
Swear to God.
we've already vacuumed up the internet. All the old stuff's been taken. We all got it. It's commodity. What isn't commodity is actual new stuff. like stuff happening in the real world happening right now. And I think they're all doing these licensing deals with various news organizations, but those all kind of are from like 2 or 3 years ago, and they're probably not very good. And I am betting that one of these companies is going to say, why don't we just buy Reuters or the Associated Press?
That makes a lot of sense.
And like they can keep on doing their thing, but they'll be the grounding for our model and make our consumer product so much better.
Yeah, people thought it was wild when Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Post. That will seem quaint. That's your 10%, right?
That's my 10. I feel like it's a big sandwich for them to eat, but I think it would make sense.
Honestly, that was my alt because I felt like I already talked about a news one, and I didn't want to do 2 news ones, but I really like that one.
Cool. Well,
Okay,
give me another.
Gosh, all right. It's hard to pick just 3. I have a 10%. I can't decide if it's 10 or 50.
Okay.
But I landed on 10, that the biggest AI company of 2026 will be a company that you and I have never heard of at this moment.
Ooh, like bigger than
Like
OpenAI?
bigger than OpenAI, NVIDIA. Now, I guess the question is, what does bigger mean, right? Like market cap? Well, it's hard to imagine a company going from unknown to bigger market cap than NVIDIA in 1 year. Are we talking about like the zeitgeist, the amount of press it's getting? Are we talking about user base?
Well, we also could go
sure.
we could go the other direction, which is the negative case, which is China invades Taiwan or something, and NVIDIA goes down 75%, and all of a sudden Perplexity, who knew? It's up at the top. I don't know.
Okay, yeah. So maybe a company that we have heard of, but that no one saw coming, becomes the biggest AI company in the world. I'll work on that. I think the bigger point is, again, a few years ago, no one had heard of OpenAI, and look at what it has accomplished in that time. And it's got coming up on 1 billion active users. It's like I think Facebook took years to get to that number.
I pulled the stat earlier. I think last December, they do weekly active users for weird reasons. Last December, it had like 300,000 weekly active users. I'm sorry, 300 million.
I was going to say.
Yeah, 300 million. And as of like the end of November, they're up to 800, which is nearly 3x.
Wow.
It's pretty, and like, we think of
active user. Wow.
we think of ChatGPT as being a pretty mature product as of last December. I mean, we were using it a lot, but the fact that it doubled and almost tripled its user base in 12 months is pretty cool.
I think we've talked on this cast before that I don't use ChatGPT like I used to.
I'm on Claude
boy
too.
now, and I never thought I would say that.
Okay, let me give you my 50%, which hilariously is also about a upstart AI company. That Perplexity is either going to go out of business or be acquired.
Interesting. Okay,
let me tell you why.
Say more.
Let me tell you why. I think Perplexity is almost the whipping boy for lawsuits right now. It's like, if you don't want to go after one of the big ones, you go after Perplexity instead. And by the way, they are a bit more aggressive in like how they scrape information and how they pull stuff from otherwise somewhat hard to get to websites. I just think that they are more vulnerable than the big guys. And I think they're also building a company that might just be an easy buy for a Gemini or for a Claude that wants to like introduce all of their real-time stuff into their stack.
Yeah.
So so that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I think they're either sued out of existence or they're bought and then protected by the big family.
Because you could also remix your prediction and say that Perplexity buys a news organization. But I actually don't know how much cash they have. Like, I don't know what that would look like for them to acquire a Reuters. But I mean, that could be like a very one-to-one use case for that company.
I mean, it could solve their lawsuit problems to some extent.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they're still going to be pulling from the internet at large. But yeah, if you buy Reuters and then Reuters isn't suing you, you don't need to go take Associated Press's content anymore and get sued by them.
Yeah, beat them, buy them. Okay, am I allowed to add another 10%?
Yeah, last one. Let's do it.
10% chance that a major LLM will cut off access to its APIs or make API access prohibitively costly the way that once upon a time Elon Musk did with X after he bought Twitter. Which, we've got companies building business models on the backs of these open APIs. It reminds me of 10, 12 years ago when people were building businesses on the Facebook graph, and then Facebook took a lot of that away and those businesses went away. Same for LinkedIn, Twitter, et cetera. I think it would be a catastrophic event. I think you're going to see companies building hugely valuable products using someone else's technology, i.e. OpenAI or Anthropic, et cetera, but with their own sensibility, their own UX and sort of use case.
Yeah.
10% chance. 10%.
I get that. And I also feel like it's possible that maybe OpenAI invents some really cool consumer experience. What I think is more likely, let me bump this up to like a 50%, is that they will invent a really cool consumer experience that's niche, that never makes it into the API layer. Like there's a world in which Gemini, like Nano Banana 3 is an amazing image generator. And they're like, this is so amazing that we actually want it to drive Gemini users instead of driving Gemini API users. So we're going to gate it, and you can't use it unless you use it out of the chat interface, which means the value prop's a little different, but it becomes an engagement driver for their core consumer app, which if they decide it's important, they'll do. I mean, it will never happen for Claude because Claude is like all its money basically comes from its amazing API and agents. I guess never say never, but I could see Google or OpenAI doing something like that. I don't think it would be the entire API though.
I wonder if it's kind of already happened in Google's case, because Gemini 3 Pro and Nano Banana 3 are very expensive. Nano Banana 3 is 6.5 cents an image, which doesn't sound like much, but compared to GPT-5 Mini, which is like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a cent per image, that adds up.
Yeah.
X is doing the same thing. Anyway, we will see.
Okay, 90% confidence prediction. Phelps, go.
Well, I feel like mine's a little cheesy, but it's a little earnest. Okay.
Okay.
But I think there's a 90% chance that the Andrews will have a product in the marketplace that is successful. What do I mean by successful? I'm going to say that we've got average recurring revenue from subscribers that exceeds the costs of building and maintaining the product. So like profit. And we have at least 5,000 active paid users by the end of 2026. I think there's a 90% chance. And here's what's funny. You and I have worked for big companies. We've built products that literally millions of people use. And yet, like me saying we'll build a product for 5,000 people feels like terrifying.
I'm like, whoa. No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
But we know how to build apps of that quality.
Yes.
Now we just got to go do it. And I think we can do it.
I think we can do it. And like, it's funny, you and I have been talking about why do we feel like this is possible in 2026 and it wasn't possible in 25 or in 24 and 23? All that stuff you talked about at the beginning of this cast, all the stuff I talked about how the first half of this year was just really tough and made us think a lot. I think that's what made it possible. I think we realized like this is where the direction we want our lives to go. We want to be building products for the people we love. And we just got to starting like we tell all of our freaking clients. Yeah. And 2026 is the year where we're doing that. I'm actually with you on that. I think you're right. 90% chance. I agree.
I think the joy of our both being independent is we get to choose who we work with. You don't have that in the full-time workforce. And so if we don't want to work with a client, we don't work with a client. And so everyone who's ever worked with us is somebody that we wanted to work with. It would be nice to be even more selective and say, we do only the best and most amazing projects every year when they come our way. And the rest of the time we're making stuff that people use. I think that's what fills us up. So I'm really excited for 2026.
Same here. Well, I don't think we can top that, Andrew. I will just programming note, we will be off until January. I think we need to settle on when our first step will be back. Yeah. But we'll be back in early January. So look for us then. As always, if you like what we're doing, please tell a friend. What's the one thing we're telling people to do these days? Leave a review.
We are asking them to write a review on Apple Podcasts.
And are we still extending our offer?
I just realized we probably were supposed to do a limerick today.
Oh no.
But we'll do a double limerick next time.
Sounds good.
The offer was that we'll write a limerick about you if you write a review about us.
And we still will. Holidays are tough.
We totally
holidays are tough. Yeah. I apologize.
Yeah. Come on, give us a break. Jeez.
All right, Andrew. Happy Friday.
Happy Christmas. Happy New Year. And happy Friday.
Happy Friday.